So on behalf of early SIG 15, the special educational needs, we are welcoming you to the very first SIG 15 meets other SIGs. I'm Kati Sormunen. I'm a coordinator, one of the coordinators of our SIG, and I have here today with me, I have Nadina Gomez, and she has been running these brown bag seminars for a couple of years with Erika Renzato, and then we have also Inma Fayado Bravo with us today, and she will be hosting the next one. So we got the idea in the last early conference that we had a really nice discussions with the other SIGs, and we decided to start the sort of joint seminars with other SIGs where we kind of connect two research areas together. What are research in our SIG and also in the other ones. And today we are having the seminar with the SIG 28 with play, learning and development. And we will have three really interesting presentations today, 15 minutes each. And we will have the discussion after all of the presentations, and where all of you can participate. But we are also having Valeska Grau-Gardenas from the SIG 28 coordinator of that, one of the coordinators of that SIG, participating also to discussion. But we are also welcoming you all audience in that one. So please, Nadina.
Yeah, no. Okay, so thank you, Kathy, for the introduction. Now I'm really happy to present Dr. Hannah Giner-Hau. I don't know if that's the good pronunciation. Okay. Hannah is an associate professor at Stockholm University at the Department of Special Education. She has collaborated on projects concerning social emotional learning in early childhood education and primary education. Hannah has also been leading research projects on young offenders and is currently a principal investigator for promoting successful schooling for young offenders with ADHD, a co-produced evaluation of the homework, organization, and planning skills, intervention in Swedish social services. Today, she will enlighten us with her insights in the talk, guided play and narrative skills, promoting participation and engagement for each child. So thank you very much, Hannah, for joining us on our brown bag seminars. And I pass the floor to you. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will say I do this presentation. I shall now do one thing at a time, otherwise it won't work. I share the screen first, then I start to talk. So now you can see my screen, and then we shall have it input. So thank you very much, and thanks for the invitation. And I'm also happy to be here both with Florian and Winnie, whom we, together with another colleague, Maria Glad, we had a symposium during the conference in Thessaloniki this summer, or last summer. So it's really nice to be here with the two of you. And this work I'm doing together with David Backlund, who is here, I think, who is a doctoral student at our department, and also Heidi Selenius, who is, like me, an associate professor at the Department of Special Education here in Stockholm. And the intervention we will talk about today is playful learning and narrative skills, and I think some of you here are also familiar with that intervention. And it is important to remember that this is a pilot study that we are doing so far. So this is some results from this preliminary study, a pilot study. what you can say about narrative skills is that they are fundamental for academic achievement in general. So that is why we have regarded this as a field that is very interesting for special education. Also, concerning that it is also challenging for many struggled learners. If you have challenges when it comes to narrative skills, that will affect your school situation in general. So that is how we started to approach this field and why we found it so interesting. So the question we had was that, can an intervention based on guided play that promote narrative skills be a possible primary intervention in a Swedish multi-tiered system of supports? And saying that Sweden does not really have a multi-tiered system of support, but of course we are still working on different levels. So our sort of working, the idea we work from is that if you can have a classroom-based intervention that does actually promote achievement also for those who are struggling, both with participate and to engage in classroom teaching, and also when it comes to achievement. And the method we then came on to was playful writing, and that is a method focusing on the potential of playful writing to promote academic achievement and participation and engagement for each child. And that is actually not the per se the goal of the intervention, but for us also this coming from special education, participation and engagement, and for each child was our guiding principle when we started to work with this method or this intervention. And that is as we could see the potential for that when involving children in play and in guided play. And this method, for those of you who are not familiar with it, is a structured universal intervention that promotes narrative skills. And the teacher guides the students to portray the story using Lego or other concrete materials. And the students work together in small groups and create joint constructions of the read story. And after the students have constructed the story together, each student gets to create their own story based on the construction and the conversations with their peers. And this developed narrative skills support the development of narrative skills by providing a personal experience of the stories, and giving the students an opportunity to develop the vocabulary and retelling skills by talking about the constructions. And it also is providing visual support, which gives students support to remembering and telling the story. And also working together and having a dialogue about the joint work also means that an opportunity to train social skills in structured and predictable ways. And these are all fields where many students struggling need support. So what we saw in this intervention was that it was sort of a built-in support for many of those who might have not that easy to join classroom teaching when it comes to reading and writing. And in this present study, we have conducted it in 12 classrooms in 2 Swedish schools. And it is a primary school, and the ages are 6 to 9 for these children that have been working with it, and approximately 250 children took part in this, and also 30 teachers. And they implemented playful writing during 1 school year. And during this time, they also went to visit teachers in Cambridge who worked with the same method. And they also, these 2 schools, they worked very much together on it. So it was also a lot of cooperation between the teachers. And the aim we had for this particular study is that we wanted to explore the teachers' experiences of playful writing's potential for promoting participation and engagement for each child in Swedish classrooms. And Swedish classrooms, they are expected to have the capacity to include all children, basically, with some exceptions. So, and we also have a diversity when it comes to languages. We have several areas in Sweden where you have really sort of a multilingual context. So that was also that we wanted to see if this worked for inclusive teaching in Swedish classrooms with with the diversity of children. And in this study, we collected data from these 2 Swedish schools who work with playful writing. Data was collected by recording 6 focus groups with a total of 25 participants. And we described the recordings verbatim, and we analyzed them with a thematic analysis. So the essential themes that we got out from the analysis was that playful writing offers opportunities for children in diverse groups to work together and mutually support each other. So that was quite prominent when the teachers discussed together in the focus groups, that this really promoted cooperation between the children, and also that this fixed framework that Lego has evens out the individual differences. It gives room for creativity, but at the same time, a block of Lego is a block of Lego, and it doesn't change. So at the same time that it offers opportunities, it also gives everyone about the same kind of conditions and even out the differences between children. And building together offers opportunities to engagement and participation for each child. And that was actually quite striking what the teachers reported in these when they reported about the sessions they had with playful writing, where they have had children that maybe had not participating at all, maybe didn't speak Swedish that well, but still they could participate in these sessions. And also that building together contribute to creative process and result in more detailed narratives. So also this kind of where everyone could engage and participate together according to the teachers, from the teacher's perspective. This did create a learning environment, which also produced more detailed narratives. So when it comes to guided play, participation and engagement in a Swedish context, according to what we have seen in our interviews, our focus groups, the results indicate that guided play can promote engagement and participation in Swedish schools and has potential as a primary intervention in a future Swedish multi-tiered system of support, which we haven't got at the moment. And also what was it's not part of this study, but what was striking was also how well the teachers said that this fits into the Swedish curriculum, which also makes it quite feasible to implement in Swedish schools. And we are continuously working with this, with the data we have and also with the intervention. And what we want to do in the future, of course, is to explore children's perspectives, which is quite important, particularly when it comes to engagement and participation. And we also want to, what was used here was the English teacher's guide for this intervention. So we would like to, of course, develop a Swedish manual and to do that in co-creation with the Swedish teachers. And also very far in the future, we also need to, of course, evaluate the effects of an adapted version of playful writing, but we are really at the moment on this more pilot stage. So, and that was the end of my presentation. So I think we now just continue and then take the discussion afterwards. Is that the idea? So I just exit here from there.
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much, Hannah, for the presentation. Keep your questions for the end to ask Hannah, please. And now we are having Winnie Karen. I'm going to introduce her. So moving to the next presentation, allow me to introduce Winnie. She's a junior professorship for German didactics in an inclusive context specialist areas of language and communication, lower secondary level, literacy research, linguistic performance in lower secondary level based on intervention studies, reading, writing, debating, acting in inclusive learning settings using the design-based research approach. Today, she will present us her work, Everyone's Playing, a participatory theater project to promote reading competence. So we are honored to have her with us. And without further ado, Winnie, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. I want to share my screen, but first I have to figure out the time, because sometimes I'm talking and then I'm still at the end. So I need the time for me. Okay. So let me check. Now you can see my screen. It's a presentation. Okay. I hope you can see it. Yeah, thank you very much. And now at the moment we have snow outside, so we are very happy here in Germany to have snow and to have a lovely weather. But greetings from the University of Potsdam. To my project, I will show you the agenda. So first, I want to tell a little bit more about the challenges and the mission of our share and here in the school system in Germany. And also, I will give you some slides to the projects, and I want to give you the conclusion. The keywords of the next 50 minutes are design-based research, teaching model, reading skills, drama, social interaction, peer collaboration, participation, and literacy. First of all, in Germany, we have a historically grown differentiated school system, and therefore it's a challenge, because in every county we have other names for the schools in the secondary at the secondary level. And so it's a little bit different to other countries. So we are not we don't have only one system, and that is more complex for the inclusion way for teaching, because since 2009 we have a signature, and we are still through the ratification of the UN that the school system in Germany, we have to change more to the inclusion system. And the reason why, is the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And that is for Germany a new story. So in the historical way, we have special schools and the normal schools. And now we want to conclude about schools. And on the other side, we have the challenge to promote literacy, of the PISA results in reading. So we are still going on to promote it in the secondary level too, and we are not very fine with the results. And that is the mission of my share too. We have a focus on literacy. So here you see the quotation of the European Literacy Policy Network, and they said everyone in Europe has the right to acquire literacy, and it should be provided with the necessary resources and opportunities to develop sufficient and sustainable literacy skills and knowledge in order to effectively understand and use written communication in print and digital media. So it's our aim and mission that we want to close the gaps between those who have good literacy skills and those who struggle, and that in schools with students with and without learning disabilities and special educational needs in other ways. So 2 years ago, that was my first year here at the university, and I asked them, okay, do we have any book or any guided sentences for inclusive learning here at the Center of Teaching and Education at the University of Potsdam? And they didn't have anything. So that was my first working area to bring different didactics and the psychology together here at the university and outside in schools, together with principals and teachers, to know more, okay, what is our aim and what is a good definition for inclusive learning. What is our aim and goal setting for this? And here you can see the conclusion after 2 years. It's a definition for inclusive learning. And the term inclusion in the school context stands for learning and working together within the school community. For teaching, this means that the individual learning requirements of all students are recognized in an appreciative manner and are taken into account in the systematic design of learning opportunities. So that was a beginning to think more about learning and teaching in inclusive settings here in Germany. And the next one was that we have seen in the schools that the school kids in the secondary schools, they have a lot of trouble, not even the cognitive trouble in literacy, just being in the classroom and seeing that bullying is a big topic in secondary schools, but also in the primary schools too. And we have spoken with a lot of teachers and principals, and they said, okay, that is definitely a big problem in our classrooms. So I only one dates. In fact, 80% of the female students want to learn how to treat each other better. And bullying is with the adolescents, 80% within the schools. But we know from the work of Domkowski in her dissertation that playing theater has a positive effect on the cohesion of a group, not just for bullying, but also for the cohesion group. And that was, a sign for our share to think about this, to bring it together, the inclusion, to promoting the literacy skills, to stop bullying, and to have a good program. And that you can see that we wanted to promote, and still we want to promote the reading skills with this multi-level model of reading from Rosebrock and Nix. And here you can see on the social level that the school and peers are very powerful for reading too. And that on the subject level, the knowledge, the participation, motivation, reflection is a relevant factor. And at the process level, it is a word and phrase identification, local coherence and global coherence, and recognized superstructures. But we have seen in the reading test that we could also figure out the reading competence on the process level, not on the subject or social level. So if you gave them, or if you want to give them a questionnaire, then perhaps, but it's a little bit more difficult. So it was to think more about this research, and so the solution was, okay, we have to combine different test instruments and the mixed methods approach to figure it a little bit more out and to bring it together. So the research idea was a playful engagement with the drama text, promote reading skills on local and global coherence at the process level, participation at the subject level, and peer interaction at the social level. And theater stage as show space offers linguistic and non-linguistic possibilities of realizations that go beyond the reception of the play. The global research question is, how can a theater project promote the reading competence and the social interaction? And here you can see only some yellow highlighted questions. The first one is, which reading skills, reading speed and comprehension do the participating students show in reading literary text at the beginning at the end of the theater project compared to the control group? And the fourth highlighted question is, how do participating students and trainers evaluate social interaction from their perspective within the theater project? So objectives are promote the reading skills, the scenic interpretation, the social interaction, and the expectation of self-efficacy. And in this theater project, we are still going on in this project. So we analyze our data in different projects and in different cycles. So in the design-based research approach, we are at the moment still in the 7th cycle. So in every cycle, it's one research project. And then we analyze all the data then together in the secondary school, and also with children outside of the school in extracurricular projects. But the beginning was the cycle 0. That was the text Alleintatort-Schule from our Claudia Kumpfe. It's a text for 10 girls with 20 scenes, 36 pages, and it's a playtime over 60 until 80 minutes, included 2 songs. So that was the beginning. We have used this text basis. And here you can see some pictures of the cycle 0 2017. And in this inclusive learning group in the 7th grade, we have figured out that there were still all reading and still motivating after years of this theater performance. But I wanted to know more about the effects. So first of all, we have analyzed the structure of all lessons, and we have figured out that there's still a check-in through which the mood of the learning groups was queried, and then there was following a warming up with various games related to the theater. And to the social interaction, the reference was Auguste Boal in this book, Theater of the Oppressed. And after that, there was a phase of playing and also combining with peer feedback and teacher and peer feedback. The teachers are not the teachers in the theater projects, they are still a coach. Yeah, they are involved in the theater project, but not to say, okay, this is the first scene, you have to go there, and then you have to go there, and please read it out. And so, no, he isn't the regisseur, he is still the coach for this theater project. And we have figured out that the checkout is very important for the school kids too, because then in this phase we can reflect about the phases of playing and reading, and to go through the theater project to perform at the end of the project. The length of the phases always depended on the mood, motivation, and wishes of the groups, and was adjusted accordingly. And as a first, after the 0 cycle, we have we did as a cycle 1 in an extracurricular test phase in Brandenburg with 13 girls, and we have still analyzed field notes of 2 trained teacher students. And that was very interesting because we have figured out that it's a good combination to know more about the reading competence on not even on the process level, also on the social and at the subject level. And here you can see only 3 cases. The first case is 1 student, 2 8-year-olds initially shared a role and did not want to read at the beginning, but after 2 days they asked to be assigned a role and they performed. Case B, a big sister explains that little sister read voluntarily during vacations, never read before during free time. And the last ones, dyslexia students didn't want to read, promised not to perform. After 2 days, tandem reading, safety, always read to mother in the evening, was not a reader at herself, at her concept, but they all performed on stage. Yeah, and that is a little bit only a little introduction to my project. So we want to combine the relevant topic reading, and we want to promote reading through a theater project. And we use to take text with the topic of bullying to speak about this topic and to play in different roles to promote the reading competence with this very important topic. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Winnie, for showing us this really interesting project. I'm sure there will be lots of questions for that. So now, to conclude these presentations, we have Florian Reitmaker, who is an assistant professor in the Faculty of Behavioral and Social Sciences at the University of Groningen. I don't know if that's the good pronunciation. You can.
Groningen.
Okay, that one. With expertise in inclusive education, social participation, cooperative learning, and intervention development, today she presents the talk titled Room to Play, Promoting the Social Play of Kindergarten Students with Disability. So thank you very much for accepting our invitation, and the floor is yours again.
Thank you, Nadina, for the introduction. I will first share my screen as well. Hope that everything goes okay. Hopefully you can see my screen for full now. I see some people nodding on the right. That's very helpful. Thank you. I'm honored to talk to you today. Maybe good to know that the symposium Hannah talked about that we presented in Thessaloniki had, well, the topic was play as a means and a goal for students with disability or within inclusive education. And I tried to, well, I reflected on my own research. Handed in my PhD dissertation before the summer, and I'm about to defend it in February. So the last few weeks have been a lot of reflecting on my own research. And today I want to talk to you about how I dealt with play as both a means and a goal in promoting the social participation of kindergarten students with disabilities. A little bit of background. As Winnie already mentioned, internationally, they have a global trend towards more inclusive education. And the idea behind it is that we will establish equality of opportunity for all students. So also students with special educational needs and disabilities, preferably within an inclusive or a general regular setting. And as you all know, play is important for the social development of every child. And luckily, we see that in inclusive education, students with and without disabilities play and interact together. So that's very good news. And we also know that students with disabilities interact more in inclusive settings than they do within specialized settings. So far, it's very good news. However, if you look at the equality of opportunity and you compare them with their typically developing peers, their social participation lags behind. And within the field I study, social participation is often defined as acceptance by peers, interactions between students with and without disabilities, so friendship and relationship, and the way they perceive their social acceptance themselves. And doing research on this topic, I found many studies which looked into, well, acceptance and friendships measured by sociometric procedures, but I haven't found a lot of studies that tapped into the topic of play, which is quite odd to me, considering play plays such an important role in the social development of children. The few studies that I did found, well, they say, well, children with disabilities in general more often play alone than with others within inclusive settings. And they have found this for multiple types of disabilities. For example, physical disabilities, intellectual disabilities, and or developmental delay, hearing impairment, but also for students who struggle with emotional and behavioral difficulties. So interventions are needed to establish this equality of opportunity, because just simply placing them together within one education system will not result in them, well, to participate equally on a social level. And many authors have mentioned or suggested that cooperative learning or cooperative play activities, if you talk with the younger age groups, can play an important role in this. And the idea behind this stems sort of also from the contact theory of Gordon Allport, which with some of you might be familiar with. And the basic idea behind the contact theory is that if you well, interact or have positive interactions, face-to-face interactions with somebody who you consider as an out-group or somebody who you consider different from yourself, will result in well, a better positive attitude, less prejudice, and in the end also improved interpersonal relations. Cooperative learning, well, taps also into equality. Everybody has their own equal share within cooperative learning. You also work towards a common goal, which is one very helpful factor in this process. And there's interpersonal dependence. So there's a lot of factors which might explain how this intervention could work. And research on general or typically developing children has established that well, working cooperatively together in schools can indeed improve peer relations for children without disabilities. However, for children with special educational needs or disabilities, the results are mixed. Some studies find positive results, well, mostly in the higher age groups, but no effects or negative effects are found in early childhood, which made us think, okay, well, maybe this has something to do with the 4 criteria of optimal contact that Allport established. So that's where my project came into place, in which we took both play as a means and as a goal. The project is about, well, the further development of an educational intervention to promote the social participation of students with disabilities. And we make use of cooperative play activities in which children in very small groups of mostly 4 students work together on a very little task, a playful task. But they also receive information about the various disabilities via animated picture books and guided discussions with the teachers. And they do that for a period of 16 weeks with 3 lessons a week, resulting in 18 lessons of approximately half an hour to 45 minutes in total. So play as a means comes there within these cooperative play activities. But we also wanted to look at the effect on social play. As I mentioned before, researchers so far have mostly focused on, well, interactions in very structured settings or social metrics, but what does that really say about the social interactions and the voluntary child-initiated informal interactions on, for example, the schoolyard or within during recess, the interactions that really matter in social participation. Not being said that the other ones are not important or are not important building blocks to establish it, but eventually you want to reach that children voluntarily initiate social bits themselves towards another peer. And we decided to take a long shot and also well, look at social play as an outcome measure. And we did that via observations during free play, both in school and in the classroom and outside. And we focused on social play versus non-social play. And we also coded, for example, solitary play, not play, onlooker behavior. But considering we did it live, in the end, we ended up merging them all together. For play as a means, we were really curious to what extent students with special educational needs and disabilities were considered equal play partners. And for that, we did a multiple case study in which we, or 2 case studies in which we looked into the interactions that happened during the cooperative play activities. We followed 2 groups, both consisting of 3 typically developing children and 1 student with an intellectual disability. And for student 1, that was a boy with Down syndrome, and for student or group 2, that was a boy with a developmental delay. And all children were aged 4 to 6 years. And we took the cooperative learning activities of the group program from week 1, week 3, and week 6, which lasted approximately 12 minutes. And we coded their behavior on 2 axes, one which tapped into the dominance and one which tapped into the affiliation, as you can see here. And it's based or inspired by the interpersonal circumplex by Leary. What we found was that luckily, most students were their affiliative interactions were more prominent than their antagonistic behaviors in both groups. You can see the differences between the 2 groups, but all in all, they were quite positive towards each other, which was good news considering positive interactions contribute to improved interpersonal relations. But for dominance, we did see quite a difference between the typically developing students and students with disabilities. Students with disabilities were way more submissive than dominant, and the acceptable ratio for students to feel comfortable within a dominance hierarchy is between 40 and 60. So for the students with disabilities, this was way beyond or beneath what would expect it to be positive. But luckily, we also calculated the percentage or the proportions of time spent within dominant or submissive behavior. And we did see that over the period of 6 weeks, if you calculate a reliable change index, so a person-centered effect size, that their behavior of the typically developing students became less dominant, and the behavior of students with disabilities became more dominant and less submissive. So even in a short period of time, you can see some changes. We also looked into the effect on social play with a quasi-experimental design. As I explained before, we looked into the social play on the schoolyard and outside, but what we saw there is there was great variation between students, but already quite high percentages of free play at the first measurement. So maybe they're not that lagging behind that much as we were expecting before. Most students already spend between 40 and 60% of their time in social play, which is comparable to what typically developing students do. Most students of this age group spend about 50% of their time in social play. And the majority of students, with the acceptance of the students with Down syndrome, also had the same proportions. We also looked at the differences between the groups, and as you can see here, there was quite some overlap and variation between participants. So we also looked into a person-centered approach, and what we saw there is that we again calculated reliable change indexes. And we saw that the experimental group, there were a little bit more increases there than in the control group, but we could not attest it due to the small numbers. We had about 20 students in total. And also for long term, there were not that much differences. So we cannot really say that the interventions had the anticipated effects. To reflect and to make some room for the discussion, leave some room for the discussion. Play as a means, I think it's a very useful approach to use play in interventions like this. As Hannah already said, it's very good for students working together, supporting each other, cooperating together. And you can see that if they do it and get used to it, that you can see a slow trend evolving, hopefully towards equal status. So play can be a very valuable tool to change group dynamics if you do it in a structured, well organized way. And I think for play as a goal, I think researchers in the field of, well, special educational needs and social participation will have to investigate more on the areas that really matter, such as social play, and see what really happens during this voluntary child-initiated interactions. It's an important aspect of social participation. And one of the reasons we may not have found the effect we anticipated is that, well, as I already mentioned, about half the students were already participating in social play quite often. So perhaps there was a ceiling effect. But also, maybe they were not able to transfer, or not yet able to transfer, the effects of the intervention, the structured setting during the cooperative learning already to the free play in the, well, more unstructured settings. That is all for now. Let's continue with the discussion.
Thank you very much, Florian. It was really interesting, your talk. So now
I'd like to thank our presenters today. You brought richly different perspectives with the different age groups to your theme, which was the social play as a means of goal of learning in inclusive education. And thank you, Hanna, for pinpointing that you had the symposium in the Thessaloniki. Perhaps in the next SIG 15 or the early conference, there will be another one or for the similar theme or topic. I also like to thank for our active audience.